Okay.
All right, I think we're live on Facebook. Hello, everybody who's come in and is attending. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes. A couple things just to let you know. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can share those with us by typing them in the chat or in the Q&A feature. And if you are watching on Facebook, there's still time for you to join us in Zoom and be able to answer questions. And Start Omaha. That's where I was going. The other thing I'll let you know is that on starting the week of April 19th, we are doing Start Omaha Work Week. We're going to have 5 presentations a day on entrepreneurial topics and how to start a business, how to fund a business, all kinds of fun things like that. The Nebraska Enterprise Fund will be presenting at least 2 classes that week. Other folks are Small Business Administration, the NBDC, all kinds of really wonderful people are going to be speaking that week. So I recommend going over to our calendar and signing up for classes there. BC, are you ready to get started?
I am.
Perfect. All right. We have BC Clark with us with the Nebraska Enterprise Fund. And I'm going to hand it over to BC.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I look like my computer wants to go a different direction, but today we're going to talk. This is really a 4-hour presentation. However, I just took some bits and pieces of it, put it together, and hopefully we can get it done in an hour or less. So that's what we'll do. So this is all about credit, and really we won't get into actually how you can build your credit as an asset, but we will give you some good tools that'll help you get started on working with that credit. So when you think of credit, and this is just an icebreaker, and you can put your answers in chat, what are some of the words that come to mind? And when you think of some of those words, are they negative or are they positive? And so I'll think of a couple. When I think of debt, to me, that's negative. When I think of, access, that's positive to me. So it depends on what, how you're thinking of it and what it feels to you. But our goal today is to give you some information that can help you get to that next level of improving and making your credit better, but also getting it to a point where it becomes an asset for you. So, when we think about credit scores and all of this, I mean, the journey is different for tons of people. I mean, I've seen every different score from a 4 something all the way up. And, it really is, it kind of tells me what is thinking. Usually if their score is really low when they come in with their head down. If it's a little higher, like in the 600s, their head is up. But the thing I want to say is that it doesn't matter what it is. The problem is that we have to fix it. And so in order to do that, I'd like you to have information that you can use to better that situation. I've been certified by Credit Builders Alliance and as a master trainer to help individuals build their credit as an asset. And we'll talk about that a little later on. But again, as I stated earlier, there are so many different ways that we can think of credit if we've had a bad situation, or if we've gone to a bank and we were turned down. We normally say, well, I can't go back there. But the thing is to not be afraid to go back, but to find out what it is that you need to correct so that you are able to go and get what you need when it comes to credit. And these are just some definitions of credit and debt. And so I won't spend time on that. I really want to get into this. So when we think about credit building, when we think about how right now, you may have 2 or 3 credit cards, or you may have installment and other. The thing is that when you have credit that allows you to be able to use it, so your score is, up high, 750, whatever. Yeah, you have access. You gain access to all the things that you see here on the right side of the screen. You pay less for those products that you will purchase, or if you go in to get a loan, you're going to pay less for that loan. The interest rate is going to be lower. So the one thing that we can always do, it improves your options. So if your credit score is a great score, you're going to be able to say, okay, well, I want to go do this. And the times when you don't want to use your cash, you can use your credit, pay it off at the end of the month. It gives you such convenience. And so that's some of the things that we'll be talking about a little more in this. Now, one thing, I do talk fast. So if you have questions in the chat, I don't have one of my coworkers with me. I'm hoping Bree will be able to just let me know, and I will stop in between to answer questions. But I want to get further into this. So good credit also helps us to manage any kind of emergencies. You know, your car breaks down, or all of a sudden you have a job loss, right? If you have good credit, you can, probably look at, well, you know what, I lost my job, but maybe right now I can go and get a revolving fund where I can at least keep going till I get that next job. It allows you to be able to do some things that you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have that credit. That's why we want to talk about building it as an asset, not to repair. That's not. So you can manage emergencies well. It allows you to reduce your expenses, right? And you can achieve those goals that you've set. So building credit saves money. It gives you financial stability. And also, along with that, it gives you financial security, which we all like. Okay, we want to be able to go on a cruise, but oh wait, I don't have the credit, so I have to get the cash together. No, let's just build it so that we can use our credit card, go on that cruise, have it paid before we get back. I mean, that's the way that we need to do those type things. So that's where we want to go. Okay. So when I talk to individuals, I always ask them, what are their goals for their credit? Where are you trying to go? What things are you trying to do? Some are trying to purchase a home. Some are just looking at expanding their business. And so for each of those, it's different. It's different things that they may have to do. Where are they right now in their credit journey? Are they in a low score? Is that score kind of so low that they can't do anything right now, but perhaps work on those things that are causing that score to be low? And remember, your credit history makes up about 30% of your credit score. So you want to make sure that as you get credit, that you're paying it off and you're doing good. You're keeping it consistently, paying your bills on time. This is going to be huge when it comes to your credit score, because over 35% of it, 30% of it is how you pay your bills. So that's what we want to make sure that we do. So what are your goals? And I say that because some people say, well, I don't have any goals for my credit. Well, you have to, because if right now, if you're saying I can't get a loan, I can't do this, that means that credit has impacted your life in some ways. And so when that's going on, you have a little bit of stress, right? And so now you're not thinking clear, and you're thinking, okay, well, I need to have this amount of money. I can't work on my credit score because I just don't have time. So I'm going to just go to a predatory lender. Please don't do that. But look at it and see what things you can do. You can always set up and work out installments with creditors that you have, right? I mean, because if it's impacting your life, you need to be able to be well and not be stressing. So work out with each of your creditors that you find that you may lag behind. Let them know your situation, and let them also know that, I'm currently, this is where I am, but I'll be able to do this. So if we can set up an installment where I can get this still done, then that helps your credit. It helps your credit because now you don't have a lot of negative, because you haven't talked to your creditors to let them know what's happening in your life. So credit can impact your life in many different ways. Okay. So we want to just kind of, and if you have a story, you can put it in there. Well, let me just tell you one thing in our discussion here about credit. I have several clients that have come to me, and they were like really at like 4 something. And they would say, I didn't want to come in because I didn't want anyone to look down on me. Well, unfortunately, there are people that would do that. But I believe that when someone is brave enough to come into you and say, look, I need help with this, then what I'm going to do is bring solutions. I'm going to help. It's not me to judge or to say what you could have, would have, should have done. No, I'm going to say, well, you know what? Here are some things we can do. Let's look at the credit report. Let's see what things we can remove from that report that's causing this score to be low. And not only that, but guess what? It doesn't have to stay there. And when they see that or hear those type things, it changes their whole aura, their whole, their face changes. Like, really, I can fix this? Yes, you can fix it. And you don't have to pay a lot of money to fix it. You can fix it on your own. I can tell you what to do that will at least help you get to to a point where you're beginning to remove some of the stuff that shouldn't be there. Oftentimes, I find that individuals will have things on their credit that they don't know. Somebody could have put that on, it wasn't theirs. And once we start to get things cleaned up and organized, we find out that there are some things that they never had anything to do with. And so we work with that to get those things removed. And I'm not saying we're not a credit repair. What we do is help you build your credit so that you can use it conveniently because it becomes an asset once we get it where we want to. And we can tell you some things that we can do to keep your score high as well. All right? So I'll just go a little further. So when you look at credit, yes, it is a deficit because something is being, you know, when you go and get credit, that means you got liability now to pay that back, right? But once that credit becomes an asset, now you're just using that for whatever you want and your cash stays king. And, you know, you don't have to change that. You don't have to do anything. And we can get deeper into this. And there will be classes that will be held at Nebraska Enterprise Fund. So I'll let you guys know when that is. I want to make kind of time and get you open to some things that you can do. And I know that I won't get to all of the things that this study has, but at least we can touch on the base of some things and we can answer some good questions at the end. So I'm going to go on to the next one. So the first thing when we're talking about setting goals for our credit, again, you've seen the SMART chart before. We all know what it is. If you set a goal, can you achieve that goal? You want to make sure that it's something that that's specific. So you know that's that one thing that you're trying to work on, that specific thing, whatever that is. And if it's to clear off 2 negative things on your credit report per month, then that's a great goal. Because if you've looked at it and you say, okay, well, this is, you know, these are some things and they're small, I can take care of these. So set up and say, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to contact these creditors and pay these 2 things off. So set those specific goals of what you can do. And then as you write those down, make sure that that happens. You know, can I do 2 goals? Can I measure that I've gotten rid of those once I've gotten done? Yes, because they'll move off of your report in 30 days, 30 to 40 days, okay? And then I can act on them right now. That means it's actionable, right? And make sure that whatever it is you want to do, when you set that goal, that is a realistic goal. Can I make it happen? Because that is something that a lot of people fall back into, oh, well, maybe it was too high, maybe it was too low. So really look at those goals you're setting for your credit score, for your credit, even your finance, your revenue, what's coming in, what's going out. I mean, when you set those, make sure they're realistic. They have to be in order for you to stay on time. And then set a time with them, because if you don't, it won't happen. And so setting goals is nothing new to any of us. If we want to get something done, we set goals to make it happen. And the same with your credit and your score, your financials, whatever that is, it's the same. So some credit basics that we'll talk about, and we'll go right into that. So have you ever seen your credit report and your score? You can put it in the chat. If you have, did you see it when someone sent you a letter and said that you were declined for something? Did you see it because you requested it? Or did someone at the bank or some lending institution showed you what they saw and the reason why they couldn't give you the loan? And so, you know, we can spend time and we could talk about that and kind of go through those experiences. And for yourself, you know, I know I just talked to someone just the day before, I think it was yesterday actually, that said to me, well, you know, I've never seen my credit report. And when I asked, I said, what do you think your score is? Oh, I have no idea. I said, have you seen your credit report? No, I've never seen it. And so we pulled it that day. And she was surprised because what she thought was really negative information wasn't. I mean, her score wasn't that bad. There were some things she needed to clean up, but she had never looked at it. She was afraid to look at her credit report. So let's not do that. If you are, you know, just get with someone that you can trust, an organization that will pull that for you with no charge, and also that can pull it a soft one. A soft pull means that it doesn't ding your credit at all. Okay, so just make sure that you know what's on it. So when you go to request a loan or a lease or whatever that is, you at least know what's on it and you can explain it so that they'll be able to make a decision based on some relevant information that you can give them. But if you don't know what's on there, then it makes it hard for that lender or that apartment person or whoever it is to understand what the problem is. They just see a negative to them. Okay. All right. So some of the key terms that you'll hear, and you probably have heard them, the credit history file, and that just talks about your history. How long have you been doing this? What's on it? Who are your creditors? Those type of things. The report is really a summary of all of that that's in the credit history. Okay. And at a moment in time, that's exactly what it is. So if you pull your credit report today, they're going to show you everything that's on it. And as you may not know, during COVID right now, you can pull all 3 credit reports with no charge every week if you want to, up until I believe it may be May. But whenever they decide that COVID is over, I think it's up to May 31st. So if you've never seen what's on your credit report, please pull it. It doesn't ding your credit when you pull your credit report yourself. So you can go out there, it'll ask you some questions, and it'll also ask you questions that only you would know. So that if they say, you had a job in 1980 working for so-and-so, if that's not you, you won't know that. So they'll ask you some questions, you answer those questions, and then they'll start processing that. And you can get it online, right to your email, or you can have them send it to you on snail mail. That's up to you. The credit score, as you know, is that 3-digit number that we all some people do that, that summarizes the risk. So that if someone is thinking of loaning you money, they'll say, okay, well, let me just look at this. His score is, 600. So let me see, why is it 600? And so they'll look at your credit report and go through all of that and to come see what the risk factor is to decide whether or not that you'd be a good candidate for them to loan money to, or to give an apartment, because there's different ones. I know a lot of people use Credit Karma, and Credit Karma only goes to 2 different bureaus. So sometimes when you see it's different, yeah, it could be different. You pull different times, it'll be different. That's just how it is. And you can't say anything other than, yeah, that's how it works. So remember, it is a moment in time when you pull that report. All right, so some key terms we'll talk about today is like installment credit loan. So these are fixed loan amounts and terms, right? So if you go for a loan, you get a lump disbursement, when you get it. And then that ends when you pay it back, okay? So the fixed loan amount and terms you get a lump sum disbursement. I've been on a Zoom all morning, so I think my wording is kind of a little messed up. Anyway, so at the end of that loan, you pay it off and that loan is closed. That really leaves your credit history. It'll stay there, but it's not active. So when it's not active, it's not helping your credit. Don't get rid of it. I mean, it's going to be there, but you want to keep active things on your credit report to keep your score up. And we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later.
Hey, BC.
Yes, ma'am.
We did have a question come in. Gary asks, how do I pull a soft credit report?
Okay, so if you're not an organization that is granted to do that, you won't be able to. Now, the Nebraska Enterprise Fund can, not that we're the only ones, there are other organizations that can. I just know that the Nebraska Enterprise Fund can pull soft pulls for you. But again, you can pull a soft pull for yourself. You don't have to go to an organization. And as I stated, right now, you can pull them for free, all 3 from all 3 bureaus. And I hope that helps. Yes, and if you need additional information, Gary, just I'll put my information in the chat, and you can contact me later. I'd be more than happy to help and let you know what's happening. Okay. And so, was there any others, Bree? I didn't want to go in.
Nope, just that one.
Okay. All right. Good.
Oh wait. Is Credit Karma reliable? I've heard mixed things about it. That was from Brianna.
Yeah. So Credit Karma is as reliable as you need at that moment. As I stated, they only pull from 2 of the bureaus. So if you go to, say, like for instance, you're getting a house, well, mostly all the banks pull all 3. Okay. So if you're going by a score on Credit Karma, it's not going to have that 3rd one that I think they pull TransUnion and one other, but they don't pull all 3. So a lender could say, Well, what I see on this one, and they can all be different. That's the one thing I want to tell you. TransUnion may have one thing, you know, each one will have their own score. What the bank does is looks at all three of them and come out with what decision they're going to make. So if Credit Karma only gives you just those two, it can be a little frustrating. So I just tell people, go get your score, just pay for your score, you know, from the bureaus. That way you have a good score. And it's good if you want to just look at Credit Karma is good for looking at it. You know, right now I don't need anything, so I'm just looking at my score. But I'll tell you, when you get to the bank, it's going to be different. So just know that. And there's a lot of other ones too that have scores. And you may not know, but there's also scores for apartments, scores for car dealers that are different than the regular business, the top three. So just know that a lot of times when you're going for an apartment, I had an individual tell me, well, I don't understand, my credit score is this, but the apartment building gave me a different score. Well, that might have been the score for that industry. So there's a different credit scoring agency for apartments, for car loans, things like that, that that's not a lot of people use. So you just want to be aware of all of that. Okay. Okay. Hope that helps. All right. So when we just looked at installment credit, it's a loan. You take it out, you pay your payments, and at the end of that, when you paid your last payment, it's paid off. Now this is revolving credit. It's open-ended. So like your credit cards, right? You go and buy something, you pay it off the end of the month, and that as long as you buy something every 6 months, that card stays active. Most people don't know that, but so yeah, so it the balance that it just revolves. You want the card to revolve. You don't not necessarily want your balance to revolve. So pay it off. Go and get something. This is what we call revolving credit. Now, I had an individual who told me, he said, my score is like 750 and he could never get to 800. Well, after looking at his credit report, I found out that he had the same credit cards and he was just, he was doing all the right things. However, he just needed to have more access. So I told him that just talk to his creditors and have them extend a little more credit onto his cards, even though he was, he pays them off every month. That allowed him to jump up because his utilization went way down. So just remember that if you're in that 30% range of utilization, that can pull your score down if you're over that. But if you can stay under that, like 15, 10%, you're in a much better, and your score can stay up high as long as that utilization is not so high. So you want to make sure that you watch that as well. And I want to go back a minute, because when I say utilization, just so that people understand what I'm saying here, what I mean is that, say like you have a credit card and it's $1,000, okay? All right, so that credit card you have, spent all the way up to $950. So you only have the $50 worth of convenience on that card, right? So that can cause it's over 30% of utilization, so it can cause your score to go down. So that's why sometimes you see your score bouncing up and down, and any number of times that you can pull it, it might be different. So watch the utilization, and for each card that you have, or each whatever it is, just make sure that you stay under 30%, as low as you can, 15% or whatever. All right. Okay, so good credit happens. The thing that, and people always ask, how do I have good credit? Well, when you look at the scores and what you can do to keep that score high and continue to keep it active, you want to open and use at least one credit product. So if you have a credit card, a loan, a car loan, right, and credit card, this keeps your score inching up. Okay, if you use a credit card, keep credit card balances low, as I talked about just a few minutes ago. You don't want to be right at the top of whatever that maximum that you've been given. Keep it down low, less than 30%. That'll keep your score higher. Okay, and I know sometimes this is a quick read, but if you there's just so much that you can do to improve your credit yourself without paying anyone to do that. So just remember that. You want to pay your creditors on time, whatever it is, every month. Just make sure that your bills are being paid. Every time that you're doing that, that keeps your score up and active, and it'll keep climbing as long as you stay within that 30% utilization, and you're increasing what things that you're doing with your credit. So just remember that the credit history takes up 35% of the score. So if you have kind of a negative history, it's definitely going to bring your score down. So you want to look at what's causing your score to maybe not be where you want it. Okay. And there's tons of resources out. There's a lot of agencies that will help you with this. So make sure that you're utilizing all of the resources that you can to help with your credit. Don't get caught up into credit repair services, because all they're going to do is say, hey, I think if you just, just wait another month, be 4 months behind, then we can come and take care. We can make sure that you that we remove it off. Well, all they're doing is getting you to do that. So now they can go in and do the same thing that you can do, but you're going to pay them a lot of money to make it happen. I don't think we need to do that. So any of those businesses that like the reporting agencies that do compile credit information into reports, lenders go to them, other businesses, consumers, and the big three credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Now, I know you've heard of them, but there are so many others as well that depending on what industry that you're either purchasing or doing something in, that they may be a different agency that they use. So you could have something on, like I stated earlier, on your Experian or your TransUnion and Equifax, and you have all those three. You go for an apartment and they say, well, I have this score for you. Well, they're looking at a different agency that provides that type of scoring for that industry. So you can look at all the agencies. You can go online and find out all the different agencies that they have out there. And in this class, we kind of go through each one and talk about it. Not in this hour, unfortunately, but we can definitely look at some other things that we can do. Lenders and businesses who use your credit reports, any companies that build credit scores, a lot of the governmental agencies, of course, use it as well. And you use it as well, especially each time that you go to purchase something, or if you're going to get a loan, or sometimes whatever that might be, you're going to use that report as well. I think I went too far there. All right, so I want to play a little bit of Credit Jeopardy, and I'm going to have you kind of put your answers in chat, or you can unmute yourself and just call it out. But this is called Credit Jeopardy. I just want to find out where you are and what you know. And so it's kind of fun too to kind of answer these questions. All right, so I'm going to ask you a question and you can let me know if it's myth or fact. You can just drop it in your chat, and at the end we'll look and see who had the best ones, okay? All right, so if you pay all your monthly bills on time, you will have a high credit score. Myth or fact? What do you guys think?
Looks like we got both myth and fact.
Okay, that's usually how it is. It's a myth. And the reason why is because even though you pay your bills on time, it depends on what's on your record, right? On your report. Remember, I told you that if your credit card is up there and the utilization like 50, 60%, it doesn't mean that you're going to have, even though you're paying that every month, it's not going to reflect that score because it's going to keep dropping it down. So there's a lot of things that goes into whether or not that score goes high, and definitely that is a myth. So paying your bill on time is not going to do it, but making sure your credit utilization is low, under 30%, as I stated earlier, that can help make that state go up there and be high. Okay, so let's look at the next one. If you only have collection accounts on your credit report, you may not have a score. Myth or fact?
Looks like myth is what everybody's saying.
Okay, it's a fact. It is a fact. So, and everyone always gets that. So if you only have collection accounts on your credit report, the reason why you won't have a score is because a lot of those collection accounts are not active. They're collections. So those things that you haven't paid. So, sometimes you don't have a score. Or if you don't have any real credit established, you won't have a score. I run into that a lot, especially with a lot of my millennials or some of the ones like around 40 that haven't done a lot. Yeah. So that is a fact that if you have collection accounts on your credit report, you may not have a score. All right, so let's do another one. You can ruin your credit by applying for a few new lines of credit, making inquiries. Myth or fact?
Looks like everybody's saying fact on that. Can lower
Okay.
it, but not ruin it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a myth. You can't ruin it. And I'll tell you, if someone pulls credit for you, if they're not soft pulls, I think it's up to 3 times right in the same time, it won't impact the score. And a lot of people don't know that. They think every time it's pulled that it's gonna ding you. No, it's not. If that happens all in like 1-2 days in that 1 month, it's not gonna ding you. So just stuff that you need to know that you may not. So let's do another one. It is possible to go from not having a score to having a good score in 6 months if you have one loan that you pay on time each month. Myth or fact?
Looks like a mix of fact and myth.
Okay, I usually get that. It's a fact. I worked with an individual, I think I was telling you guys about this, and when he first came to me, he was like I think he was just at a 510 or something like that. We looked at quite a bit of things that he had. We cleaned all that off, and then we had him just borrow like $1,000. He borrowed $1,000, and after actually really it was like really about 3.5, 4 months, he had a score, a good score. So yes, that can happen. That is a fact. All right, so one more. Okay. A single late payment can reduce a credit score by as much as 100 points. Myth or fact?
We got fact and then fact depending on how many accounts.
Okay. All right. It's a fact. A single late payment can reduce a credit score by as much as 100 points. And I'll tell you, I had a client that he had several different credit cards, but one he had was like a limit of 350 on it. And it was $50 over the limit. And took like I don't know, like 150 points. Took like 150 points off. So just watch those type things. A single late payment can really can ding your credit. So you don't want to make sure that you're not doing that. All right, so let's go to the next one. I hope you guys learned something from that. So how many, now this is a different one. How many credit scores can one individual have? 1, 3, no more than 20, too many to count. Put it in the chat. Okay, what are some of our,
We looks like 3, and then I don't know.
okay, all right. So actually it's too many to count. It's D. If you, I mean, if you can, there's tons, okay? And if you go out there, you can see, I know I went out and I think the most I saw for one individual was like 13 different scores. So yeah, you can have more than too many to count, just like it says. All right, so let's look at the next one. So this is our lightning round here. All right, what are the 5 principal factors that influence a credit score?
Anyone brave enough to guess? There we go.
I'm gonna just put it out. Yeah, remember I said that the payment history takes up 35% of that, makes up 35% of that score. Utilization is another one. The length of credit history. So if you only have a credit history of 3 months, it's going to be a little, a little different. New credit, right? And credit mix. So all of these really help, your score. So these are the 5 principles. And I can also let you guys know that when you pay your bills on time, usually you can maintain your utilization and length of credit is just going to be the number of years or however you've been in. So sometimes if you've only been in for 6 months, it just takes time to build, but you can still have a good credit score in 6 months. So just remember that. All right. Okay, next. Which factor has the strongest influence on your score? I know you guys got to get this one. Any guesses out there?
Payment history. It's a couple of guesses.
Payment history is definitely it. There you go. Payment history. All right. All right. So we won't get into much of this, but we'll talk a little bit about credit reports. And what I want to do is kind of go through this a little. So what's in your credit report is like 4 different sections, right? You have your personal history, you have the credit history, you have your public records. So that means if any judgments and things like that are against you, and any inquiries that have been done. So you have all of this on the report. And so these are the things. So when you get that report, some people say, I just can't understand anything on it. But the first thing you will see is your personal information. That's usually in that first block. And then it'll have all of your credit history. All the creditors that you have had are on there. There will be a derogatory section if there's any public records like bankruptcies or judgments from the courts and things like that. There'll be a section in there. And then anyone that has inquired on your account in the last 2 years. So any inquiries, like if you went for a loan or something like that, they always will inquire from the credit union, and those are tagged on your credit report. If people see a lot of inquiries on your report, they think that you're desperate. So just so you know, don't have people pull it unless it's something you're getting ready to purchase. I know one person went to a car dealer, and I'm just telling you this, and what she didn't know was that they use multiple different lenders to try to get the best deal. So every lender that they went to pulled their credit report. So she had like tons of inquiries, which made it appear that she was really desperate for whatever she was trying to do. And she didn't understand why her credit score had jumped down so low. Yeah, so just watch those type of things. And those are things that they don't tell you. And you're just not gonna know if you're not in the industry to understand what these credit things do. So what's not on the report? Anybody know? And just take a wild guess. So non-credit banking information. So checking and savings account, that's not on your credit report, okay? Your gender, ethnicity, really, that's not on, right? Some of I think a law was passed a couple of years ago, probably, that if you had like delinquencies on utilities is not on there, that's for sure. But they also started removing, I think, some of the public record stuff that they used to put on. I think they're not putting that on the report anymore. However, your lenders can still find out the information. Okay, it just doesn't appear on your report any longer, which is good. Old accounts that may no longer report, to the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So a lot of things that we kind of think that might be on it or not. So this is how you can get your annual credit report each year, and you should be doing that. And as you know, you can do that every week. If you feel like you need to go out and do that, every week you can go and get a copy of your report. So these are things that you can do, because if you pull it yourself, it doesn't cost a thing, right? And then with that report, you can kind of thumb through and say, okay, because once you get to the credit history, you see all the creditors that you have. If you look to the right, you can see what the original bill was, what your monthly payment is and how much you owe on it. So if this is something that's old and, a date that happened, you know, 10 years ago, depending on what it is, you can begin now to work on that to get that taken care of so it's not pulling your score down. So it's really, really important that, you know, all consumers, anyone in business should pull your credit report. You should know what's on it. And if you can't read it, take it to a reputable place that will help you read your report. A lot of times accountants can do it. Agencies, I know Nebraska Enterprise Fund does it. You have other agencies, MLCBC, Catholic Church. A lot of these, there's lots of agencies that can help you read your credit report. So don't be afraid to go to someone and say, look, I don't understand what this is. Can you help me know what I need to do to take care of some of this stuff on here? And then we can help you. So just don't be afraid to do that. I think that the one thing, what you don't know, people usually say what you don't know can't hurt you, but I say what you don't know can kill you, because if you don't know it, it's like a bomb. You're waiting for something to explode, right? It's like if you don't know that you're getting ready to eat something that's poisonous. So you need to know. It's a need to know process. What's on my report? How can I take care of it? How can I make my score better? And that's up to you to want to make that happen. All right. So when you first start out, there's input. You input personal information, right? You answer some security questions. This is when you want to go to annual credit report. All right. And so we talked about, it's going to ask you for your personal information. There's some security questions it's going to ask that only you would know about your history. And that could be on your job or a son or a relative. They have all that information and they'll ask you about it. All right. And then you get the credit report, right? Either they'll say it's not you or you don't know the question. And if you don't answer the questions, I can tell you, they will stop it right then. You won't go further because they're thinking that maybe it's someone else trying to get your information. So when, just know you will be the only ones to know that information. So I just want you to know that. All right. And remember that you do have rights. You have the right to understand when someone says that they can't give you a loan. You receive one copy of your credit report from each consumer reporting agency each year, but right now it's every week. Okay. So take advantage, go to that annual credit report, pull all three so that you know what it's saying on all three of those agencies. What are they saying? And then if you're in an apartment and you're looking at going to another apartment, you can find out, because I believe that agency will send, like when they first either deny or approve you, they send you something. So look at that, whatever that link is on there, check that out to see what that score is for you. And because it talks about how you took care of property. Okay. Like if you was in an apartment and maybe, you had some damage to that apartment, that goes in that scoring. Okay. So when someone else want to look, you go to a different place, they're going to say, well, this person damaged it up. So the score is like 2. So no, we can't rent to you. So it's things like that you may not know that you need to know. So just because the 3 reporting agencies may have good numbers for you, sometimes if you're doing something different, that can impact you as well. Okay. You want to be informed. So if you are denied for a loan or you receive something on favorable terms, you need to know why. So a lot of times they'll say, this is the reason why we declined you. And then you can go to your credit report and say, okay, they said it was this. And you can really identify what that is and say, okay, well, let me try and get that fixed. Okay. Don't just not do anything when you're denied. Do something. And you can, if there could be stuff on that report that you need to dispute. And if you didn't do it, you can usually prove that you did. And so it's just simply writing a letter to whoever has that negative information that you didn't put on there, that you didn't do, and then just keep that communication going. And usually they will do an investigation. And if you didn't do it, they'll find out. And pretty soon they'll remove that off. I've seen it happen over and over again. So don't be afraid to look at your credit report, because Tom, Dick, and Harry both could have put something out there that you don't know. We need to know what's on our report. And so don't not do that. All right. You can receive a free copy of that credit report dispute whatever's on it so that things become more clear to you. The more you work with your credit report, the better you're going to come at taking care of your credit and being able to get that score up where you want it to be so that you can use that credit as an asset. And that's the whole goal, is to make sure you have convenience, whether you're running a business or in your home or vacations, whatever that is. You want to be able to go and do what you need to do without having to say, oh God, I got to save up for this. You know, if I have a credit card I can pay off, boom, I can make that reservation right now. So just think of those things. Think of credit as an asset. I mean, because that's what it can be once you get it where you need it at. Okay. All right. So I know a lot of you use.
BC, sorry, before
sorry.
you go on, did have a couple of questions come in. So this one's from Joseph. Is trying to buy a house after renting, and the bank officer said that they needed to raise their credit score and suggested a secure credit card. But on the same site, there was something called Rock Your Score, which apparently would report rent payments to TransUnion, and said the cost was $120. Is that legitimate? And is it worth doing?
You know what? I think that if you actually, there's so many different agencies out there that are just about money. Just they want to get your money. You can probably get that same information by actually going to that where you were reporting when you were renting. They can tell you the credit agency that they use for their apartment industry, and then you can just simply go to them. And I bet you can get that less than 120. You may not even have to pay anything. So before you pay that money, do a little bit of research and make sure that, you know, if it's something you really need, you can do that. The other thing though, the banker did say was that you could do this. You can get a little secured credit card and kind of go from there. I think that I would look at anything that any resources I can get to where I didn't have to pay money out, because usually when it's a reputable organization, they're usually not asking you to pay anything. In most cases, I would say that, because even if it's a nonprofit organization that's doing it, sometimes there's a small cost. But I think for that, you don't have to pay 120 to get that. I think you can go right with the apartment that you were in, find out who is the agency that they use that approved you to get in that apartment, and then work directly with that particular agency. And I think you'll find a lot more success that way. And
all right. And then we also had Diego asked, is what you've been talking about basically the same principle for like business credit?
Business credit is a little different, but I want to tell you the way you start building business credit. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur and you just started, they're going to use your personal credit because the business doesn't have any. And so, but once your business is going and you get up to a certain amount, you can request that they start to report your business credit. So if you go and buy equipment, we have some of that too. So if you go and buy equipment for your business, and so it's a lease. So let's say you're leasing equipment, or you rented equipment, or whatever that might be, you can ask them to report that to the credit bureau for business. And I can't think of it right now. But if you let me know later, I'll get that information for you. But yes, you can have your business reporting on credit, but it doesn't happen if you're just starting out, because the business doesn't have any credit. So they're going to use your personal credit, and that's what they'll report on. Okay. And usually I think for us, I think we start at about 25,000. Once it gets to there, then we can start reporting it on your business credit. Excuse me. I hope that helps. Excuse me so much. Was there another question?
No, I think we're good to keep going.
Okay, thanks. All right, so anyway, here they're saying here's the Credit Karma, Credit Wise, excuse me, Credit Sesame. Again, you can pull all of these, and everyone would have a different score for you. So it just depends on what you're doing and what you need, that you can kind of look and see, excuse me, what you need. I just think that going to the agencies is always the best case. You'll always get good scores from them. I got a frog in my throat for some reason. I think I've been talking too long. I apologize. Whew. Okay, so we'll get into a little bit of credit scores. And we kind of talked a little bit about some of this, but I will get into this a little bit before it's time for us to get off. And then I can take questions at the end. So you can look here and you can see which score range are you currently in. All right, and it kind of tells you a few things. So if your credit is really poor, to lenders and anyone else, that's a high risk, okay? And you see the scores that they're looking at. I have to tell you though, some banks think that a mere 600 is poor, just so you know. They look at 650 to like 700, 715 as 650 to 700 is fair. And then anywhere from 700 to 850, if that's considered excellent. So if you're not there, this is where you want to start looking at, okay, how can I bring that up? Okay. All right. So if you don't have a score, you might not have a credit score at all. And that could be because if you've never used credit cards or loans before, if you only started using it recently, and so any of that, and I think we've kind of talked about that a little bit. If you have used credit in the past but don't have any accounts with recent activity, so that's another thing. You may have, 5 credit cards, but if you haven't used them, remember I said if you have a credit card, you need to at least go and buy a pair of socks or something every 6 months. That keeps that card active. That helps your score. The one thing I want to tell you that if you just let them go dormant, they're just there, you have them, and it doesn't mean that it's not going to help you have good credit. You need to have active credit for the score to go up. Okay. So making sure, and so I have some things that I have, and I have it on my calendar. Okay. And in the month of May, I need to go and buy something on this card to keep it active. Yeah. And just pay it off at the end of the month. So if you're doing that, that'll keep that card active on your account and you can keep going. So those revolving accounts, you can really keep them in good standard and stuff like that by just doing those simple things. And there's so many different tools that within credit building that you can do to really help you get to that point of putting your credit into the field of asset building. Okay. And I know this is going to be fast, but we're going to get this done in the next 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever. All right. So no score. The good news is that there's nowhere to go but up, right? Lenders may treat you as a high risk because you don't have credit, because they don't know. They don't know how you will act with credit. So they kind of keep you on a short leash. They don't see, because they have nothing to go on. So a lot of times when someone doesn't have any credit at all, they'll usually be denied because of lack of credit. Okay, that's not a bad thing. Just go and get you a small department store credit card and just start paying on it so that you can build that credit. Okay. And there's some things you need to have: revolving and installment loans to keep your score high. And we'll talk about that probably in the next segment that we get to. It won't happen in this session right here. And I can take questions. Okay. So there's different types of businesses that access different types of risk. And so a lot of the scores are designed for different lending and business purposes. As I told you before, for apartments, there's a different agency that can give a score. For banks and those, they'll use all three and decide which one they want to use. And usually they take the best one out of all three. So it's different types of scores for different business purposes. And so as long as you know that, you kind of do a little bit more research and information. So if you're going after an apartment, if you're going to buy a house, there's certain things that you need to know in order to do that. And a lot of times, if you don't have a whole lot of credit, they will probably want you to do a few things for them before they'll loan you money to, purchase a house. Buying a car is a little different. You can almost go anywhere and get one of those. But just be careful, because if you don't have credit, they'll throw a big high interest rate on you, and you don't really want to do that. All right. Some of the key scoring factors, and I think this is going to be the end of it here, and so some of the key scoring factors and you all got it earlier, was the payment history. Okay. Um, Outstanding debt, credit utilization, that's key. We talked about that a little earlier. Keeping on for every credit card, whatever you have, you want to keep it under 30%. Keep it as low as you can. If it's 10%, that's fantastic. If you can just keep it under that, that will help that score stay high. The length of your credit history plays a part in that as well. And then, of course, inquiries and applications. And then the credit mix. You need to have a mix of credit. So not only credit cards, but like a car loan, a house loan, those type things. That's a credit mix. That also plays into your score. And if though you have all of that, a lot of times your score can stay up here. And just remember, if you have credit cards, you want to make sure that if you haven't used them in a year, get that card active. Keep it every 6 months. Just buy something, pair of socks, a pair of shoes, whatever, a purse. Just buy something so that card can stay active. That keeps your score up. See, we have to work with that score. It's not like you just do something or you just pay your everything monthly and you think your score is going to shoot up. It won't. As I told you before, remember I had a client who was at 750 trying to get his up to 8 something, and he was doing all the right things for a long time. He really had to have them increase his his credit limit on a couple of things just so he could get up there. So it does take work, but the one thing is that it's all good if you're up in 750s. I mean, most people say, okay, that's where it is. But he wanted it to be where he wanted it to be, and that was his choice. And so he found out what he could do. And after our consultation, he said, thank you so much. I'm where I want to be. I said, so are you buying more stuff? No, just wanted to make sure I was up there. And so anyway, he's doing things to keep it there. And so that's what you do too. You find out what you want to do. Remember, we talked about goals. So set those goals and make sure that you can have what you want when you want it. And remember that NEF offers this 4-hour session, goes into so much more tools and things that you can do to make sure that you can get your credit to a point where you're able to use it as an asset. And so I'm going to see what's next here. Okay, so just, make all your payments on time, right? Get back on track quickly after missing. If you miss the payment, we know that can be a ding. So just get right back on track. It's never that you can't get to where you need to. It's just that you have to be consistent and making sure that even if we all make mistakes, we all slip. So just have to jump back on it and get on it. Regularly use credit accounts. Your cards, as I stated, every 6 months, just make sure you buy something so that you have what you need, okay? Keep credit card balances low. We talked about that. Avoid maxing out any of your credit cards. You don't want to do that. I told you a story earlier. So this kind of, we'll talk about the limits and the balances and things like that. We kind of talked about this earlier. We don't have time to go further. I am going to stop it right here and take questions because we've got about just a couple of minutes left. I am going to dump my information into the chat. And so if you need additional information, you want to know when the classes are, I'll be more than happy to. If you need counseling on your credit, it's all free. So just let us know. I'm going to put my information in the chat. And then if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. And then we can tell me, and I'll put in my information right now. And I'm going to stop the share on my screen.
Okay, we do actually have some questions. So Joseph asks, excuse me, should you always be paying, excuse me, I think I got your fraud.
I know, sorry.
Sorry about that. Okay, should you always be paying something on collections? Should you negotiate? How long before that moves off of your history or shows that you've paid it?
Yeah, so collections, usually when it's something negative, it's usually on there for 7, but you know what, you can work with, I've had clients that have had some stuff on there. Once we work with that creditor and they gave us, like, a lot of times what they do, if it's an old credit, they will take so much off and say, oh, just pay this and we'll be done. And we've had creditors do that where they said, okay, if you pay this amount, we'll forgive the rest. And so when they do that, then you ask them for a letter that have them remove it from your credit, but ask them for a letter because it'll take a minute to be removed. But you'll have that letter. So if you needed to go in and get additional funds, you'd have that letter stating that it was paid off. Okay, so just remember to do that. But definitely negotiations always work well because a lot of times they've transferred it to other different companies. And so all they're doing now is just getting the residuals. So yeah, so they'll usually take a negotiation, and sometimes they'll try to highball you, but just say, this is what I have, this is what I can do, and and a lot of times they'll take it. So yeah, definitely negotiate if you can.
Okay, and then what is a good interest rate for a credit card?
A good interest rate for a credit card, or a good interest, well, nowadays it's different. I tell you, I mean, you always want to find the lowest interest rate. There are some. I want to say that I know there's some credit cards that Discover doesn't charge you an annual fee, but I think they're like at 17 or 15 or something. A lot of the credit cards are like at 24%. You definitely don't want that one. And if you have a balance on any ones that's high, try to pay those off and get those off of your report as soon as you can. Okay, but yeah, so a good, what's a good one anymore? There's just they're all high, so it's kind of you kind of have to shop around and find out if that's a credit card you want. I would try to, a lot of people go to stores, and a lot of those stores will have higher interest rates. I'm not sure why. So it's best if you go and get I would say a lot of times the credit cards at the bank are like 15. Sometimes they can be high. It just depends on your score. So look for the one with the lowest interest rate. Look for those cards that offer 1 year with no interest, so that you can decide at whatever you get, you can pay it off by the end of that. And that way, you're not carrying a balance with that high interest rate. So just look around, research a little bit, and find the card that you want that's going to work for you.
And then I actually had a question about credit utilization. How does credit utilization affect student loans, or how does student loans affect credit utilization?
That is it is a huge one. But if you have if you work out an installment with them, and I've had this happen as well. I've had some that will come because they report to the agencies, so
Right.
that can pull your score down. But if you work with them, so like if they give you an amount that you have to pay and you can't pay that, I've had probably 6 that I've talked with, and I've said, look, you need to let them know, and during COVID, they were very forgiving. So they set up deferment plans with them. So they're willing to work with you. So look at that. And this, if they're saying, well, you need to pay this much amount, if you can't pay that, they can't, so they will work with you, but you got to go to them and talk to them.
But if you have like a high amount of student debt, that's not going to affect like you're supposed to be doing your 30%. A high amount of student
Yeah,
debt
I
isn't
think
going
that's
to
mostly,
affect
that's
that.
not, no, that's going to be, because the student loan is not compared with the credit cards. It's just
Okay.
that, for your credit cards, those are the ones that you got to watch your utilization on. Okay. I think that, and even on your, because on installment loans, it's fixed. So it's a monthly payment every month. So there's no,
Mhm.
so there's no under that. It's mostly on the credit cards, on the revolving accounts is what I should say. On those revolving accounts, just make sure that they're under 30%. Keep them as low as you can. If you can get down under 20, that's good too. You want to just make sure that you're doing that. So yeah, it's not on student loans, because usually once they give you an amount to pay, that's fixed. Okay, so it's no such thing about the utilization on those. It's just those revolving accounts.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, folks? All right, BC is putting her contact information in there. Perfect. And this will be available to view again on our YouTube channel, probably later next week. And then I will remind everybody once again that Start Omaha is happening on starting April 19th. We've got a really wonderful range of classes available. So head to the DoSpace calendar and sign up for those. And we'll just, if anybody has any last questions, otherwise, I think we'll go ahead and sign off for the day.
All right. Okay, well, thanks everybody.
Not see anything, so I will see everybody. Thank you, BC.
All right,
We'll
thank
see
you.
you during Start Omaha.
Yep, we'll be there. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.